Welcome everyone. We'll be starting here momentarily. Um, Someone that does what's the meeting about? Well, this is a weekly session where we teach how to create AI agents towards the Wokkathon. So does that answer your question, or do you have any other questions? Abdullah Abdusalam. What's the meeting all about? It is a meeting of just getting everybody up to speed with the things they need to know about agents, what agents about, and things of that nature. Does that answer your question? If you have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat, um, and we would answer it. I see people raising their hands. You have a question, drop it in the chat, and we would answer your questions. We'll be starting here momentarily, so Caleb, we'll be getting started here momentarily. I know there's been a lot of questions around the Wokkathon. The Wokkathon is the goal of the Wokkathon is to have individuals who take who create agents over a period of time, and essentially would be quizzed on the agents that they created. If they get selected, and would win a prize. And that price will be, basically, uh, if you check our website, the Wokkathon website, you'd see the details of that. Now, the goal here is to prepare you for the Wokkathon. So we're not expecting everyone to come knowing everything, but the goal here is to prepare you for the Wokkathon. And we've been holding these sessions where we've been teaching you how to create agents, the steps on making agents and things of that nature, just to get you up to speed and to get you ready, for the Wokkathon, right? So, um, stay plugged in, stay focused, stay learning, stay growing, and stand the opportunity to do some great work. And so, we're gonna get started here very soon. We're gonna give maybe another 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna pass it on to uh, Caleb, who is going to be our instructor for today. Isaac, unfortunately, cannot be with us today. He's gonna be joining us in the coming weeks, and so. For those who were expecting Isaac is not with us here today, but Caleb would do as great of a job as Isaac would. And so we're excited to hear from Caleb today. This is my first session with you guys. Is there like a prerequisite video session before this session? No, you could stay plugged in. There are videos that you can, review after this session. They are going to be on the WhatsApp group. So for those that are not aware of the WhatsApp group, depending on where you are joining from, if you're joining from 3MTT, you should have a link for 3MTT folks. If you're joining from DSN, there should be a link for DSN. If you don't have it, those links, send to Ibukun privately, or so that we can tell you guys how to navigate it. So remember, if you're coming from 3MTT's separate link, if you're coming from DSN separate link. So I'm seeing some other questions. Please, which CrewAI package do you advise using? CrewAI in Python or CrewAI web service no code? Anyone that works best for you. If you're a developer, use the one that works the best for you. If you're a developer, use, the Python one. If you're a non-developer or have no experience developing, then use the no-code one. So remember, like, the 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 quality of your work is based on the kind of product that you're able to deliver during the Wokkathon. So just make sure that you're, creating really solid products. And so if you do that, then you grow. So let's see here. Any other question? Okay, looks like these are the questions here. Sanusi Aliru, I still see your hands up. Admin, I still see your hands up. Were your questions answered? If your questions were not answered, feel free to ask your question here. There are some sample agents on the site I'm unable to view. What sample agents are you referring to? Caleb, can you answer that? For those of us who've joined since via DSN and also terms fee, would the earlier registration suffice? Or is this yeah, you're good. For those that have already joined, you're good. That's perfectly fine. I joined a WhatsApp group, but some of the groups I joined are still pending. Can you help me approve them? Well, we're not approving anyone into just all groups. We if it's 3MTT, you'll be approved specifically to 3MTT. If it is DSN, will be approved specifically to DSN. We're coordinating various groups on the group chat, and we want to make sure that it's not uh, a crazy house, right? So we're just making sure that we have everything all properly coordinated. And so, yeah. When are we expected an email response after sign up for the Workathon? Well, the Workathon starts on August the 15th. So if you've registered, um, or if you have indicated interest on August 15th, you jump on the link, you start, dishing out your AI agents. I did not see anything, sir. It's just an audio. You do not see anything about, I'm not sure what the question there. My question is in the website, I saw that we are to use make.com and anything to build our project. Is this a compulsory rule or we can use any? You could use any rule, any tool, right? You could use Python, you could use anything, you could use make.com. Here's the thing, just ensure that what you're doing, you're able to explain it. What you're doing, you understand it in and out, and you're not just basically hopping on tools to develop stuff, but you actually have a thorough understanding of what it is that you're doing. As long as that's the case, then you're good. Because for those that would eventually make it to the finals, you will be interviewed, you would be asked questions, you would be questioned on the things that you did. So if you're not really good at what you're doing, we would know. And so just make sure that uh you're doing, what it is that you're doing, regardless of whatever tool you're using. If you're using Make, we would ask you questions around how you arrived at something, or if you're using anything, we would ask you questions, not just around what it is that you did, how you accomplished it. So if you talk to members of our team, you'd see we get you in fact, we get you on a um Google video chat, and we have you walk us through what you did, like create a new one, walk us through what it is that you did live. We will vet it. We would make sure that there's no compromise when it comes to like the quality of the individuals that we're picking. So just make sure you're doing the right thing. Make sure you understand what it is that you're doing. Make sure you can defend what it is that you're doing, and you'll be in good shape. On Wokkathon site, I see an option to see demo agents kind of, and I wanted to view the demo, but it's empty. On the Sorry, Caleb, was Silas talking about? He says on the Workathon site, I see an option to see demo agent, kind of. And I want to view the
Right.
demo, but
There are a number of examples we put there, but they are not necessarily demos. They are just to give people idea of what the agents could look like. Then they go back to the drawing board
yeah.
and say, okay,
So we didn't build anything for you there. We didn't create any. demo for you. If you want to see any of the demos, look at our former videos. Look at the videos of the training. You would see demonstrations there. You know, we all of that is covered during the class. What you see there is basically examples of agents, that can be developed. You don't have to pick those ones. It's just to get you thinking about what you should develop. Again, it's really on the innovativeness of your agents. It's not just about creating agents, right? So if you're not thinking innovatively, and you just go copy some samples and stuff like that, like, okay, very cool. But, it might not win you, the price. What you want to do is you want to be creative, you want to be innovative, you want to think outside of the box, you want to do things that people are not doing so that you can stand out. That's how you win. The sample AI on the sites, how do we view them? The sample AI, I tried viewing them, but
They're
they
just
didn't.
they're just titles and short descriptions. They're not like full crews. They just say maybe an email reply agent, marketing strategy agents. So it's not like they are demos or built out tools. They're just like examples so that
Just examples. So these are
guide.
examples. These are unbuilt examples. Let me put it that way. They are not anything already developed, right? And stuff like that. Then we'll be giving you the answers, right? These are things that just give you ideas, samples of what you should be creating. So um you should now go ahead and sort of figure out, okay, what is it that I want to do and how do I want to make it make it work? What about someone that has no idea of how the project is all about? Well, if you don't have an idea of how or what the project is all about, go on the group chat, start from session one, session two, session three, and walk through those videos and see if you're able to grab an understanding of it. These professors and teachers that have been teaching you, they've dedicated hours of their time walking through step by step how to go through this stuff. So review it, go through it. If you have any questions, there are people I've seen people who on the group chat are helping others to get up to speed with, what they should be doing. Incredible. That's kind of what we want, right? So review it with people, ask questions that you'll be able to get the answers you're looking for. Is there specific tech stacks we are to use? Or we can build our AI solution on from scratch. Python, really good. Anything, make, really good. Anything, preferably, really good, right? Because make, if you drop your JSON in and the JSON isn't working properly, and you have an issue, right? But just make sure that you do your best, and make sure you're using, you know, um, if it's JavaScript, Python, whatever the case is, as long as your code is working. But you will be judged based on, the level of effort, a level of thought you put into what you're building, So if someone goes and just creates, an agent that moves data from one Google Drive to the other, right? I don't know how you're going to win that, but if you think through, and the best way to do it, we discussed this previously. Think through some of the most complex problems that surround you, and sort of figure out, okay, what are the ways that I can actually solve this problem. We just joined the group chat today. Where can we find the videos? Can you reshare them? They are on this webinar chat, right? They are literally sitting on the webinar chat. Make sure you click the link and you can view the recording. Please, I want to ask, can we use n8n locally on our machine because of the free trials? Yeah, I mean that's totally fine. You know, just make sure that, the version you have is accessible, for the competition so that you're able to we're able to test it out and see how it works. So more importantly, guys, you know, like make sure that you're thinking critically through, the problems that you're trying to solve. What we put on the website is not we're not giving you the cheat sheets to the answers. We want you to be able to think critically and come up with these ideas. So that being said, I think I've answered the majority of questions here. Someone said they have attended. I just joined the webinar. I can't find the links. I see the links on the webinar chat. Ibukun, does it disappear? Maybe you want to repaste it, or you can paste it for the individual. Awesome. Also, as you guys know, we've been doing raffles every week. We've been doing raffles. We will keep doing some. We'll keep doing some raffles. All through the year, we're going to be doing events where we if you join, and we teach something, you do something, we give you we give you some raffles. I didn't see anybody build anything interesting this week. So I guess because we didn't say it, nobody did it, and stuff like that. But like the goal is not to build and stop. The goal is to build and continue to build. So hopefully we keep getting everyone, investing their time into building, and stuff like that. So anyway, I'll pass it on to Caleb. The floor is yours.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Yanni. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're joining. This is, I think, the fourth session of this series. My name is Caleb Adigbite. I'm the product lead of the Wokkah team, and I'll be building on the foundation that the other instructors have laid. Please confirm you can hear me. Right.
Yes, we can hear
Okay. Okay. So yeah, a bit about myself. I'm a builder. I love to build. I'm an idea person, and so I'm able to use tools to get results. But the advent of agentic AI has really changed the game for me because I've unleashed the speed at which I can go from like idea to value is increased because of the tools available, tools like me, tools like CrewAI, tools like all these tools we have been uncovering. So with the help of agentic AI, I no longer just build apps, I build great experiences for people powered by this agentic development. So it's a pleasure to take this session today. We'll need to move a bit fast and because we'll be focusing on the practical. I know last week I took a recap on CrewAI, basically the theoretical aspect of it. So we're about to start the installation when this last session ended. So we'll pick it up from there. And at least we'll try to build something today. It doesn't matter if you're a no-code person, if you're a coder, all that matters is fundamentals. Once you understand the fundamentals, what brings together CrewAI, what brings together agentic and AI in general, you are able to think. It's more about the thinking. Once you can think it, building it is way easy now. 2 weeks ago, we covered Lovable and other no-code tools you can use to build. So building is not the problem, but being able to understand the fundamentals and think is very important. So yeah, don't feel overwhelmed if maybe you're not a Python person or you're not a code person. It will all come together. Okay, so I would share my screen now. Okay, so basically, from the understanding of CrewAI, a crew is a collection of agents that carry out tasks to achieve an outcome. So those are three different areas there. There is a crew, there is the agents, there are tasks, and then the outcome we want to achieve. So we would be having a practical on like breaking all of those down, defining all of those. But quickly, I think we have like less than 30 minutes. So maybe for the first 20 minutes, we'll do a deep dive. Then the last 5-10 minutes, we can have Q&A and discuss. Okay, so quickly, just a recap, what are autonomous agents? They're systems that work independently to complete tasks. They make decisions with human guidance. So human guidance in this context could be the prompts that you have given them, or there are also agents that work hand in hand with human, like a human handoff, where the human steps into the flow and then the AI agent can pick up the next step. These are some examples of agents you could build. I'm giving you ideas for what you could build. Agents that can collaborate with humans are also nice. So they learn and adapt, and then they execute complex workflows from end to end. I'm just trying to go over this so that we can go into the main practicals. Okay, the value, they reduce manual work from what we have seen. They help scale operations without hiring more people. So imagine that's why they're called agents. Imagine you have to hire 5 different people when you can build your own agents to do different things. You can build a UX designer agent, you can build a developer agent, you can build a QA agent. The value that brings is immense. And then they work without taking breaks, no labor unions, no unionizing. All right, quickly. Okay, so common examples we know, ChatGPT, Claude, all have elements of agentic. Jasper AI, okay, more in customer service. I don't know if anybody knows Jasper AI. Has anybody used Jasper AI or Copy AI? Yeah. You can drop in the chat which other agentic tools you have used. Okay. No, heard about them. Okay. Yeah, you can do Grok. Okay. Grok in itself is an LLM, but you can use it for agentic workflows. All right. In business operations, GitHub Copilot, Zapier, Notion. For research, we have Perplexity, Data Robots, Monkey Learn. Yeah, so back to the statement I started with, a crew is a collection of agents that carry out tasks and to achieve an outcome. So there is a crew, there are agents, there are tasks, and then there is an outcome. So yeah, people are really dropping. You can see Gamma AI. Yeah, thank you for your response. Okay, so what we're doing today will be installing CrewAI and building one crew. So let's go to the CrewAI documentation. The CrewAI documentation on how to how to install CrewAI. Please confirm you can see my screen. I assume we all can. Okay. So CrewAI requires Python 3. So if how many of us are following along with the code? If you can go to your console and check the Python version you are using. So if you have anywhere between 3.10, 3.14, we are fine. Then you can also drop in the chat which development environment you're using. Are you Windows? Are you Mac? Are you Linux? Although CrewAI made provision for all of those operating systems, there are instructions. The instructions here on how to install that. I will drop this link in the chat so that we can also follow along. Okay, so I see Windows, I see 64-bit. All right. So first thing we ensure that the Python, we have the right Python. That's the first prerequisite, that we have the right Python version. The next step is to install UV. So UV is a package dependency management tool and a package handling tool. Other common ones, you're familiar with pip, conda, poetry, and the likes. But CrewAI recommends UV. So to install UV, just make a call request to this. So I'll open my terminal now. 1 minute. Okay. So you just paste this on your terminal and you run, then you can install. It installs UV for the operating system you are using. It's a big requirement for CrewAI. So is anybody following along? If you are trying to install, if you run into any issues, you can just drop a question to that, or you check the documentation so that we'll move as fast as we can and cover a lot of ground. Yeah, so that's the first step, UV installation, the dependency management tool. Once that is done, we can now install CrewAI. We need UV to install CrewAI. Right. So to install UV, yeah. So next step I would install CrewAI now. I already have it installed anyways, but to do that, I would if you want to do that, you just say UV. Once the UV is installed, you can confirm that UV is installed. Once it's confirmed, then you go ahead to install CrewAI. So to install CrewAI, you do UV tool install CrewAI. Yeah. Okay, so let me run that. So on my system, it's saying CrewAI is already installed, but on your system, if you run this command UV tool install CrewAI, it will it takes some seconds, some minutes, sorry, to run, and then you would be good to go. But because I have already created it, it won't it's just install all of those things that CrewAI needs on your system. So any questions so far? Do I move to the next step of installing CrewAI?
I think you should try to cover everything and then ask people for questions after. And by the way, like for a majority of you, You might have some errors. That's totally fine. This is part of what being a developer looks like. For those that are no code people, you should not say, "Oh, this is not for me. I'm going to step away." As a matter of fact, you should sit down, just watch, listen. Why? Because let me tell you something. You know, the people that will be able to make the best of, not the competition. The people that will be able to make the best of where AI is going are the people that are able to combine their understanding of code with how they use non-coding techniques to build real tools. Okay. So sit in, listen, try it. It wouldn't work, it wouldn't break, it's all part of the process.
Yeah, yeah, that's actually very important. Because if you get frustrated by the errors you face at the beginning, you won't benefit from the value that CrewAI gives you. So the next step we're checking. So we have installed the right Python version. We have installed UV, and then with this we install CrewAI. So once CrewAI is installed, you can check with this command uv2 list. So if I run uv2 list here, so it gives me the version of CrewAI that I have. All of this is available on the documentation. Just hold on and understand. So once you confirm that CrewAI is installed, then you can now start your project. So let's do that. So we'll be going over some um, some crews from simple to advanced, depending on how much time we have. But let's go over some fundamentals again. So now we have installed CrewAI. So we've gone over this. So a crew is a collection of agents, and then there is a goal. So it starts with a goal. What do you want your crew to achieve? I want my crew to do market research. I want my crew to do prospecting. So the clearer your goal, the better your crew and your agents would be. But if you have a goal that is not clear, you wouldn't be able to define each component very well. So so each agent would have its own tasks that it's supposed to do and hand off to the next agent, and then the agents can share memory and context. And then the agent can also collaborate. So that's what the CrewAI package, these benefits is what the CrewAI package gives. So let's take a minute to understand agents. So agents are a specific, it's like a role in a place of work, right? We have an operations manager, we have a product manager, you have a professor. Each have a task that they do and an area of expertise. And then there is a goal that each agent is trying to achieve. And then there is a backstory that shapes the behavior. Because the better the backstory, the more they are able to address the task you have for them. And then they share memory. Yeah, I'm just rushing through this because we'll still do it in the actual code. So I don't want to waste so much time on the explanation, but I want us to actually get how it's all structured. So this is what an agent is. There's definition, could be a researcher, could be a writer, could be a developer. There's a role, well-defined role based on what you want to achieve. There's a goal, and then there's a backstory. So don't forget that there's a role, there's a goal, and then there's a backstory. And then the crew brings together all of the agents. So for example, I have a diagram here. This is what CrewAI is about. So this is a crew, and then a crew has agents. There's a researcher, there's a writer, any agent you want to define depending on what you want to build. And then the agents have tasks. It's as simple as that, all to achieve a final goal. Also achieve a final goal. And then the agents have access to tools. So there's somewhere here where I could compare a crew to the human brain. It's just like the human body, right? Where the brain is like the crew that brings everything together, your hands, your legs. It orchestrates all of the functions of the body. It makes decisions on what to do. It's like the headquarters, right? And then manages memory. So that's the crew. And then the agents are like organs, where you have the arts all doing different tasks, but to achieve the goal of keeping you alive, right? So this is just an example, an analogy to help you bring it to life. It can be likened to how the human body is structured, and then maybe the nervous systems can be the tool. So as a corporate company too, there's the analogy that the CEO is the process manager. That's the crew that handles all of the agents and what they do, right? Sets the direction. Then there is the CEO also coordinates the departments, coordinates all the agents. It's important we understand how those three elements interplay. It would make understanding CrewAI really, really easy for us. There's the crew, the agents, the tasks that they perform. So the process manager is like the CEO in a typical company. Departments are like an agent. There's a research department, there's the marketing department, there's the quality assurance department, operations department, and then there's tools that we use in our day-to-day work. So there's email, databases, name them, name them. So it begins with the final outcome. It's like I mentioned earlier, it's important you have a very clear final outcome. So the crew we'll be building today, which would be a newsletter crew, a bunch of agents working together to create a newsletter that the company can send out to customers or subscribers, and then would make the agent vast enough to be able to write in a way that it's on brand to the company's style, and then in a way that follows the current trends and happenings in the industry. So that's the crew we'll be building today. But you can drop ideas of crews you can think of as well. Maybe if there's time, we could build any of those random ones. I'll be checking the chat for such ideas. So that's the crew building. The goal is straightforward. We want a crew that is able to generate a newsletter to be used by our marketing team. So tips for defining a crew, you need to be very specific. You need to identify the deliverables and then set boundaries so that agents don't overlap. So let's go back to the code. Let's go back to the code and start building that. Okay, so when you set up CrewAI and you create your first crew, the the files will be structured this way. Let me zoom in so we can see very well. The files will be structured this way. This is my crew, newsletter crew, right? I hope you can see. I hope it's bold enough, please. Let me know if it's not bold enough. Okay, someone said daily motivation quotes. That makes sense. That makes sense. An agent that comes up with that, although that's fairly simple. That might not need a multi-agent piece. Okay, so let's go on. So this is once you generate your crew, this is what it would look like. This is what the folder would look like. So you have the source directory, where you have your config. The agent's definition will be here, and then the task definition will be here. We mentioned CrewAI is three main components: the crew, the agents, and the tasks. So the agents, this is the file where you define all of your agents, and then there is a task, which is also a YAML file where you can, similar to JSON, where you can define what you want your agents to do. So there are two ways of running CrewAI. One, you can run it with agent definitions like this, where you write your agent as YAML, and then you connect them using Python. There's also a way where if you have like Flask or Django, if you want to build the agent into your maybe backend workflow, you can. So although we won't be covering that today, this is more direct. It's simpler to start this way. Simpler to start this way. So okay. So let's go back to the documentation. So we've installed everything we need. Now we want to create our crew. So to create a crew, we say CrewAI create crew, research crew. Okay. So let's do that. Go to the terminal. I say CrewAI create research crew. So this last argument is the name of your crew. You can name it anything you want. It's good to be very descriptive. So let's just say research crew. Yeah, so that runs, and then it will pop up some prompts that will help you set up the crew. So first thing is you need to set up a provider, an LLM provider. There are a number of them here, but I would advise we go with Gemini, because with Gemini, you are able to get an API key fairly easily. Fine, OpenAI, Anthropic, you will also get the API keys, but many of them maybe might be behind the paywall or something. But for Gemini, you are able to get an API key fairly easily. So we'll go with Gemini. You enter the number equivalent to the provider. So I'll say 3, Gemini. It's saying which model do we want to use. All of this can be changed later, but I think Gemini 2.5 is pretty recent. So you can do some research on the models. These are the actual LLMs. So if you chose OpenAI, you would see GPT-4 or GPT-5. Because we chose Gemini, we're seeing the LLM models actually. So I'll just choose one. It's asking me for my API key. Now to get a Gemini API key, you can just go to Google AI Studio, right? At aistudio.google.com. Let me paste that in the chat as well. You can create, if you already have a Google account, it's fairly easy. aistudio.google.com. You can see it's right here, get API key. And then it will give you an API key. I won't show this so that, but if you do this, you will be able to just copy it and paste. That's your API key. You're good to go. You can see it's free. So you're able to use, there's a free quota. You're able to use it. It's the most recommended to get started fast. You paste your key, and then your project is set up. Is it making sense? Drop some thumbs up if it's making sense so far. If you want me to take a step back. Okay, you can see some thumbs up. So I would assume that we are good for now. So it creates some files. So let's go over the files it's created. Research crew. So there is knowledge, there is SRC. SRC could mean source, and then there's tests, and then there is ENV. So this is very important. This ENV, because you'll be pushing your code to maybe public repos or whatever, you don't want to put your API key somewhere that it's publicly accessible. So you want to put your API keys in an environmental and ENV file that you won't push to your version control. Version control is the repo, maybe GitHub or GitLab, where you will be storing your code. So let's go quickly over the source. So there is configuration, where you have agents and tasks. Like I mentioned, CrewAI is a collection of agents doing tasks to achieve an outcome. So your agent here, your tasks here, and then tools. Now without tools, fine, you can use CrewAI, but tools give your agents even superpowers. So like the analogy of the brain, like we mentioned, so we have the brain controlling everything. That's the crew. We have the organs, which are the agents. So imagine there is no hands. You can't move. You can't walk. You can't really do things. You just are. You exist. Fine. You can think. You can talk, but you can't really do things. So the hands are like the tools, and there are a number of tools we can go over. You can go over the documentation, a number of tools that integrates different APIs, different services you already use. But let's stay on point so we don't drift. So those are the files that are created in your source directory under agents. That's where you define your agents, and under task, that's where you define your tasks. So let's quickly go over our newsletter crew. So what do we need? Who are the agents? Can you tell me some ideas of the agents we need to generate newsletter? Maybe a company's marketing team. We could drop in the chat some agents you think we need to carry out the goal of generating weekly or monthly newsletters. I think newsletters are weekly. So drop in the chat some agents you think we would need. Content writers. Awesome. Thank you, AV. Juan Victor. What else? Or is it who else? Which other agents might we need? Auditor. Auditor, yes. Auditor could mean someone to make sure things are on brand for the company, right? But I think you meant editor. But yeah, both make sense. You have researcher, research team, researchers. Awesome. Awesome. So so in our newsletter crew, we have I think we have four. I've created four agents. One is a research agent, like we mentioned. Fine, we need to do research. We can't just be writing based on ed knowledge, right? We need to do research. And when we're talking about agents, we mentioned three things: the role, the goal, and the backstory. That's important. Oh, someone's a graphic designer. That is a good one. A good one. And it's imagine you can, one of the agents you'll be submitting for Wokkathon is an agent that can actually do graphics. That would be a big one. So the role, the goal, and the backstory. So for this, our outcome, our role is content researcher or trend analyst. That's the type, the name, maybe the job role we've given to it. What's the goal? Remember, keep it clear, keep it simple. Gather relevant timely information for newsletter topics. What's the backstory? So the backstory is like the system prompt you are giving. I don't know if we're familiar with system prompts for those that have used GPT or any of this LLMs. We'll get there. We'll get there. So this is the backstory. You're an expert. This is where you give the AI an identity or how you want it to perform, right? So there is the research agent. Then we have a writer. So the research agent goes, gives ideas, fetches facts. Then the writer creates the contents using copywriting tools that are on brand with the company's rules. So it transforms research into an engaging newsletter. And then the backstory. Skilled writer. So that's where you give it the skills and everything you want it to be able to perform. Then we have an editor, like you said, an editor. So Samson was right, editor. You gave it the role, the goal, and the backstory. So can you drop in the chat what you think the backstory, an example of the backstory for the designer agent? You can just write, because I don't want to reveal it yet. Let's get some ideas from you. So we have 4 agents: the researcher, the writer. Oh, so I'm revealing it already. The writer, the editor, and the designer. So you can drop in the chat, write a backstory for the designer agent, just 1 or 2 sentences. Quickly. Designer for the cover design. Okay, we'll take that. We'll take that so that we can move fast. So the role is visual content creator, create visual elements and formats for the newsletter. So that's that for the agents. We have defined our agents, we have defined our outcome. What's next? We define the tasks that each of this will be doing. Remember the diagram, we have agents that are doing tasks. So we have defined the agent. Now we define the tasks. So each one will be responsible for a task. Is it making sense? Do I take a step back? Drop some thumbs up if you're getting it so far. Okay. Okay, I would need to move faster now. But you can always catch up on the recordings. So tasks, if we go to the documentation and check the API reference for tasks, the things we need to provide. So here are some attributes we can provide to the task. You can, in your own time, you can go over this. There's a lot, because the task is the most important thing. There's a lot you can pass to the task. But for our case, these are the main things you're passing: the description, the expected output, and then the agent that is responsible for the task. So for research task, which of our agents will be doing the research task? If you could drop it in the chat. The description says research trending topics, blah, blah, blah. And then you give it the expected outcome. The expected outcome is very important depending on what you want the results to be. If you want 500 lines of code, if you want a JSON output, if you want a design. So this is where you define what you want the agent to give you, or you want the agent to give you. So you define that as clearly as possible. Later on, we would go over structured outputs, but let's just go on. So for each task, you would do that description, expected output agent. There are a lot more properties, arguments we can give, but for this case, just starting, we keep it simple. So for the agents, what are the 3 main things we need to give to an agent? If you could drop in the chat. For agents now, not for tasks. Who remembers? I'll be waiting while I go on. So we define each task: the design task, the role, backstory. Awesome. Thank you, Mohammed. Role, backstory, and the goal. Awesome. Awesome. So for tasks, it's the simple case: description, expected output, agent. So we do that for all the tasks, depending on the number of agents you have. If you have 20 agents, you define all of the 20 tasks. So this is where it all comes together. Like we mentioned, the crew is the brain. It brings together everything. In the generated files under crew.py, if you come here, you would see you would see the definition, the code. It's in Python, but please don't get scared. It's just Python. For those that are no code people, and Python is fairly easy to read. So this crew is where you bring together everything. You can see your agents. So you fetch your agent from where you have defined them. That's in the config. That's in the config folder. And then you fetch your tasks. Then in this mode of CrewAI, it gives us these decorators, right? Where there's a class. The class is the crew. I don't want to get too technical so that I don't lose people, but there is this at agent is where you define, okay, this is the research agent, and then this is we're mapping it to the config we created here. So we are saying agent config research agent. So if you go here, it will fetch this research agent and everything under it and to pull it into the crew. Same for the writer at agent, editor agent, fetch this as defined here. So this is where you define. So for example, if you have at agent, maybe marketing agent, right? Yeah, you just say return agent. And then you link it, you map it to the configuration you've already defined in the YAML file. And then verbose, we'll talk about this other option later. Verbose is when you want to see the execution as the result it's giving out as it is working. If you don't want verbose, you can turn it to false. So that is how you define your agents inside your crew. So for it to work, you have to wire everything into the crew, all the separate definitions you have made. And then there's the designer agent. So the same way we did for agents, we did for tasks too. The same syntax. CrewAI gives us some classes. So there's a task. You just say return task, and you map it to the things you have defined here. So for this style of using CrewAI, this YAML files are actually very important. So this is where you pull in, you map the definitions you have done, and then you see you can give it an output file. You can give each an output file if you wanted to save it to maybe a file system or something. So for example, in my design, my outcome ends with the design task. So what I want is an HTML of the designed newsletter. Are we following me so far? Do I need to step back? Keep writing your questions. We'll soon get to Q&A. Am I good to go? Okay, thumbs up. All right, so finally at crew, this is the final definition of the crew where you say, okay, for this crew has agents, all the agents we've defined in this class, all the tasks we've defined in this class. The process now, there are two types of processes. There is the sequential, and then there is the hierarchical process through AI. So for this our outcome, what do you think the process we need is? Is it sequential? Is it hierarchical? And explain why. I'll be looking for answers in the chat. So yeah, in the crew, you define the agent, you define the task, you define the process, and then, okay, we'll get this. And someone would address that. Let's just run this. We are almost out of time. For this one, we're going with sequential. Well, I will need to know why. Why do you think we're using sequential process to run this agent? So the last file here is the main. This is where the actions to run the crew is. So you can see this run function is what you call to run the crew. And then CrewAI is built, if you want to run a crew, you just run Kickoff, and then you pass the inputs. Now, this is very important. Let everyone listen. Yeah, blessing is correct to run them one by one. in series. Okay, that's very correct. So inputs now, if you take a step back and go to agents, we have some placeholders here. We have some placeholders that we have set, right? We have some placeholders that we have set. So this input is how we pass the placeholders, the value to the placeholders. For example, the topic of our um the topic of our newsletter, we pass it as input, and then the agents can go to work. So let's run this. Let's create a newsletter. You go to your terminal. And then you say CrewAI run. This is where everything has been set up. We now want to run. Let me clear. Yeah, so this takes some time because like Ophyung Basi said, sequential is basically following simplicity, just execute sequentially. So the researcher agent will start, pass it to the writer agent, and then the next agent until finally gives it to the designer agent in our case. So they've started running. So this is where verbose comes in. If you entered verbose when you were creating the crew, you will be able to see each output of each the final answer, so to say, of each oops, of each crew. You can see they're working until they're finally done. So the first three, I think the first two agents are done, and we have our newsletter. Go back to the task definition. Go back to the task definition. You can say we said we wanted expected outputs an HTML newsletter, right? So if you wanted JSON, we would have entered JSON. If you wanted just text, if you wanted Markdown. So it's very important you define the outputs you want the agent to give out. So our agent is done. You can see this is the final answer. And then let's see how this is the HTML file. This is the HTML file that our designer designed. So let's see if our designer is any good. So we need to fire our design. I'll download this and run it locally. Newsletter. Place. Newsletter v2. Don't think I have a copy already. Okay. So yeah, so this is our newsletter. Can we all see it? This is the newsletter. So the topic was on AI. The researcher researched, the content writer wrote, the designer designed. So this is our final newsletter that we can push to emails. Imagine we can do this weekly. So we just have a bank of ideas, and then the agents would execute. Imagine if you were a company, how much you would save hiring those three roles. Well, you can build agents to do it in how many seconds did it take? Yeah, so this is and if we have like style guides and everything, you can say, okay, design agent, I want my distance to be red, I want my distance to be blue, use this particular font. You can customize it any way you want. So this is what our our newsletter looks like. Yeah. So please, what's the time like? How many more minutes?
It is 18 past 9.
Okay, so um okay, let's just set some minutes apart for questions. But this is the final result of the particular tool. So let's go over it again. First, we define our outcome, right? First, we define our outcome. We say we want this, we want to achieve this, we want to achieve that. Then we think about how we want to structure our agents. We want a defender, we want a midfielder, we want a striker, all doing different things to score a goal. And then we give each one a task. A defender make tackles, make interceptions, a midfielder makes passes, and a striker shoots the ball. So we assign tasks to each of them, and we tie it all together in the process. So this process, this in this case is sequential. Sequential because one agent is passing to another agent, passing to another agent. But there is another process that is hierarchical where all the agents will report to the the controlling agent, that's the main crew. And then the crew will be the one making decisions on what to do, which agents to call based on the output they give. But I think for most use cases, the sequential process is used. But as you get more advanced, you will be able to run hierarchical and make more complex crews. This is just a tip of the iceberg. There's so much that can be done here. And then with automation now, you could connect it to any of the tools you have. Maybe if you have like an email campaign tool, your agents will just push to that, and then your business is running. You're sending out newsletters or whatever you want your crew to achieve. Whatever you want your crew to achieve. So that's it. Begins with the definition of the outcome must be clear. You must know what you want to build so that you'll be able to define it properly, and then define the deliverables, and then you define the tasks. So you work backwards. You start with the goal in mind. You map the dependencies between the tasks. What does each task need? Identify the bottlenecks that would affect the agent's effectiveness. So once that is done, I think we've covered the role definition, then goal setting, all of this. I think we've done practical on them. So for best practices, it's good to avoid God tasks. So there's something called God tasks that is a kind of task that you just put everything inside one task, and then you expect a good result. So the best way to define tasks are what you want to achieve, how you want it to be formatted, and who is doing it. But I'm sure as you try your hands on creating different crews, you get better at doing this. So break down complex tasks into smaller parts, one clear objective per task, and manage scope for a single agent. So for sequential tasks, they build on each other. So it's the result of the researcher agents that will determine the effectiveness of the content writer agent, on and on and on. And then parallel tasks run simultaneously. So if you have a lot of agents, it might take some time. There are some other ways this could be addressed, but we'll get there. We'll get there as we move on. Don't let's get too complicated for the people. I know there are like gurus here, but let's consider the people just starting out so that we don't overwhelm them with complexity, right? So step by step is not about intensity, it's about consistency. So that is that. So how can CrewAI be extended? Now let me ask that question. How do you think we can build on this based on everything we've been working on, the N10, the CrewAI? If we wanted to build on this particular crew, how do you think we can do that? And just drop some ideas on the chat. And then we can take questions. Anybody? Yeah, by integrating tools. Yeah. Imagine we added like an N10 that would connect the actual email sending. So you make an agent actually also do that, just call the API and send out the newsletters. Imagine, okay, it could be Chrome based. Yeah, that's right. Based on Chrome jobs, which are scheduled tasks. Okay, 1, 2, 3, by clearly stating how the whole idea. Deploying to a web app. Yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. Or exposing it as an API. So those are things you can build on to make. There's really no limits. There's really no limits. If you want to build a robot, you can do that and create agents that would serve as the brain. There's so much that can be done. The limit is your imagination. Save output to a database makes sense. Maybe Postgres instead of dumping in the directory. That is a valid point. And thank you, Of Young. Creating social media posts. Yeah. Talking about social media posts, I have another crew here, although we might not be able to cover that for Instagram posts. So it's another implementation. Maybe in the coming weeks, we could share that. I don't think there's time to go over that. I have a number of agents here. I have a landing page generator. So if you want to actually generate a landing page, you could create agents that will do that. Just the way our design agent was able to create HTML, you could create an agent that would build out the full landing page based on what your clients are requesting for. So yeah, the limit is really your imagination. The limit is really your imagination. So yeah, I think it's a good place to stop. Okay, so let me go over. Okay, well, most of us, I think we've answered the questions here. Custom tools, API integrations. Yeah, I think we've answered all of this, which shows that we are following. Web scraping, agent specialization. If you can build a medical or a legal team. Imagine you have a legal team full of agents working for you, working on your cases, language specific. It's a lot that can be done, custom workflows. So yeah, it begins here, but it's not about, the goal is not to stop here and keep building. Starting simple. I know we started really simple, but it's about building and building and building until we become real gurus. There's an aspect of memory in the agent who would touch that later. Knowledge-based integration. There's so much that can be done. So just to recap, I'll say these are the main steps. Define your work, your outcome. What do you want to achieve? It starts there, because if you're not clear on what you want to achieve, then you won't be able to build agents that will help you achieve it. Map your workflow. I think it starts with, it doesn't start with code. It starts with pen to paper thinking. So if you can build out your agents on paper, it'll be easier to build it out with code or no code, depending on what you choose. Create specialized agents with clear roles. Write focus tasks, avoid broad tasks, choose appropriate tools for each agent, and tests with simple examples. We're talking about tools. Now, we can give agent tools. There are a number of tools that all are available in the documentation that CrewAI gives us. So if you want a search engine, if you want your agent to be able to search the internet for current data, as we all know, most LLMs are capped at a particular time, except the newer ones that have direct access to the internet. If you want to give your agent search tools to be able to fetch current information from search engines, there's this SEPA tool. So if you go to sepa.dev, let me drop the link. I think there is a free trial. You don't have to pay at the first time you're using it. So I'll drop this link here too. But I believe most of the tools will be needing, especially tools relating to content, would require search engine. So let me drop this. Let me drop this. So if you just go there and you go to API keys, you'll be able to get an API key that you'll be able to use as a tool. So to do that, you just come to source directory, the same way you have your config. There's another folder for tools where you can define as many tools as possible. So you have your search tool here. So this is the search tool. So it allows the agent to search the internet. And then you pass your API key, and then your agent becomes current and has access to the internet. But yeah, I think there's you get enough credit at the beginning to play with if you want to use SEPA tool. The link is on the chat. The link is on the chat. So this is just the beginning. We've not even hit the iceberg yet. This is just the beginning, but I think this is a good place to stop so that this can sink in. You can go over the videos, visit the documentation, and interact in the group. Interact in the group. So let me see if we have questions. Dr. Anna, do you want to come in? I think that's it from me. Let me see if I can get some questions.
Thank you. When it comes, there are some questions in the Q&A section, and a few in the chat section.
Okay, there's a Q&A section. Hold on. Okay. Is it necessary to create the YAML file for all agents? No. No, it's not necessary. If you are using Crew like directly, maybe you're using it directly, maybe not in a API, not in a web application. It's where this particular setup. So if you want to build it directly into your API, maybe your Flask, your Django, there is another route similar to this. Which one was I going to show? Yeah, similar to this. You will notice this one does not have the YAML files. All of the agents are defined in code. You can see the agent, the role, the goal. This is all in Python compared to the other Crew where we did it in YAML file. So it's not compulsory. It depends on the actual application you are building. Depends on the actual application you're building. How can we connect an email newsletter tool to this? Yeah, if the email newsletter gives you APIs, you can wire it in as a tool, But in that case, you want to be careful so that you know, because most APIs have like quotas and everything, so that your agents would not just keep eating your API and sending spam emails, right? You want to properly manage that. But yeah, that is so to do that, you can either use a flow. I think for that, a flow is the ideal approach. So just like we have crews, we also have flows. Flows are for fine-grained control. So if you have like step-by-step event-driven setup, you can go with a flow. So the flow could be, okay, first step would be run this, our agents. After the agent is done and we have the HTML file, which is the result, we can now call the next step, which is to call the API to send the email. All of that is in the documentation. You can just, you can see flows here. CrewAI is pretty robust. You can see flows here, but there are different ways. There's no one way for everything. Depends on the solution that you want to follow. How do we integrate tools? Philip Mwachukwu, I think I have answered this. So to integrate tools, you just this is it. Your role, the goal, the backstory, then the tools. So the tools you must have defined somewhere. And you can now, in each agent definition, you give them the tool you want that agent to use. If you want a web scraping tool, if you want a search tool, there are many, many tools. You can build custom tools yourself to work with your own systems. So that's how you integrate tools. Can we quickly build off a job application? That's a nice one, but job application. You mean agents that would help you fill a job application? I think that's a good one for the hackathon. So you can give it a go. Maybe in the subsequent weeks we could look at it. Yeah, I think we should give that a go if you can. I'm not a Python person, but I'm more cool with JavaScript and TypeScript. I have an idea of building my own AI from scratch and also build UI for it where users will interact with it. And all requests will be sent to my backend. I hope this aligns with the project given. Now, when you say project given, do you mean for the hackathon, Clinton Emmanuel? If you can respond to that, because the question is a bit multi-dimensional. But yeah, like you said, the complexity of your agents will determine the scoring and evaluation. So yeah, if you can execute this, I think it would put you in a very good footing. What is the prepared system specification? Oh, okay, the system specification for CrewAI. Do we have it here? It's really not so much. I think any system that can run Python and that has it's not like resource heavy, at least for the beginning, until you start installing some tools that will require, for example, if you want to use Olama or something, you would need a bigger system. But yeah, any basic it's all Python. Once you have Python, fairly good memory, you can run it. You don't need heavy machines to start with. Abdullah Abdusalam. How do we create boundaries, for instance, API limits? I think we're going out of scope. This is more a backend thing. It's not necessarily an agentic thing. It's not necessarily an agentic thing. So for tools that use like quotas and everything, you want to monitor your usage. Although there are some settings in the crews themselves where you can limit the number of times it runs. So there's this property called max iteration. You can set that to maybe 1 or 2 so that you know that it doesn't finish your API quota. Can you run the landing page? I would need to run some installations to do that. I think that will take some time. When would we receive the submission link? I think that has been answered earlier. Once the hackathon is on, you would get access. Can I create an AI agent that can create a video? The answer is yes, actually. The answer is yes. But you can create an agent that creates videos, but you want to break it down. So first you would get the ideation agent, then maybe the script writer agent, then maybe the agent that fetches that puts together all the different videos if you want to do a mashup, and maybe a song, a music generation agent. There are actually some tools that you can use to generate music. And then, yeah, so yes, you can create an agent that creates motivational videos. You can do that. Okay. Connect web scraping. Yes, there are tools. I think there's even one here. Web scraping, which one is that? I think I saw a tool for web scraping earlier. Can't find it anymore. Yeah, but yeah, you can build a tool for web scraping. There is a tool for web scraping. If you check the CrewAI, you can, okay, it's not here. But if you check the CrewAI documentation well, you will see tools for web scraping where you can extract data from web server, make sure it's used ethically, and you are not just fetching everything. You want to be as ethical as possible when it comes to web scraping. Okay, we're almost done. Can we use it to do VTU? ID finders. Yes. Although I don't fully understand the VTU. VTU. What do you mean by VTU, Ibrahim Omar? Virtual top up. Can we start building now? No. You can familiarize yourself with the tools you'll be using, but building starts when the hackathon starts. Last question. So basically there is an N10 or CrewAI or Langflow to build an AI agent for this hackathon. Would I use anyone? Yes. We are the tools are not, we're not strict on the tools. You can use any tool as long as you're able to create very robust agents. Also, CrewAI is like for multi-agent systems. Must we build multi-agent systems? Depends on the problem your agent is out to solve. So if you have a way of structuring it in a simpler way, fine. There is no add specification for style or framework or agents. The ones on the platform are just like examples to give you an ideas. I think they are around marketing, IT, and stuff, but you don't have to limit yourself there. All of the industries, all of the domains, manufacturing, legal, medical, the sky is really the limit. This guy is really the limits. Yeah, so 9.
Thank you so much, Caleb. Thank you. Thank you. Can we appreciate Caleb this evening? I mean, thank you so much for taking our time to take us through this training. Thank you. Once again, thank you. Thank you. Out of your busy schedule. Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure.
I'd like to say thank you to everyone for joining in today. And once the recording is ready, I will share that on the group so that we can go over it again. And just a quick reminder, Wokkathon starts this Friday, which is the 15th of August. This Friday, 15th of August. So so we can be prepared and kickstart by Friday. Thank God it's Friday. You know, you have the weekend to start to work. For those of us that have 9-to-5 jobs, you have the weekend to do things you need to do, you know. So yeah, and if you have any other question, please drop it in the WhatsApp group. If you have any question, drop it on the WhatsApp group. And please, no private inbox. If you have any question, put it on the WhatsApp group and mention me. If I'll get the answer and then drop it on the group for everyone to see. Yeah, I think that will be all tonight. Once again, let's all have a beautiful night's rest. If I have any announcement to drop across, I will put it on the announcement side of things on the community, so that we can. What is your name on the WhatsApp group? I'm not sure what you can see, but my name is Iboko. You know, you see my DP is not fine boy like that on the DP. So I've been the one dropping the link to the Zoom. I've been the one dropping messages on the announcement side of things as well. So yeah. Once again, do have a beautiful night's rest, everyone. Bye for now.